JFF is on the road again. This time we're on the West Coast to meet some key figures in the fight against climate change.
The idea is to bring awareness to climate resilient jobs in the future and to reach at least 100,000 people in this country around those jobs.
Green jobs are much more than the obvious positions we think of. And as the situation gets worse, the need for new technology becomes even greater.
About half of the US population lives within 50 miles of the coastlines, and wave power can provide up to 30 to 40% of total US clean energy demand.
There is huge potential in the labor market to develop a climate-resilient workforce. And that is critical in protecting the future of humanity.
Do I think that this change will happen overnight? No. I think this is a long-standing fight that we will have.
Hello and welcome to part 2 of Horizons on the Record, focusing on climate change and generating green jobs.
I'm Christina Francis, Executive Director for the Insights Incubation and Investment Arm at Jobs for the Future, called JFF Labs.
And I'm David Su, a Vice President at Jobs for the Future. JFF works at the national, state, and local levels, engaging with leaders in education and workforce development, employers, entrepreneurs, and policymakers to achieve one goal: equitable economic advancement for all. Stay up to date with all of JFF's work across the country and send us your thoughts and questions on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
On this show, we are talking about green jobs. They are roles that have a direct positive impact on the planet and our lives.
In recruiting talent, the term green job can apply to any role that aims to have a beneficial impact on the current or future environment. But there's no official definition of the phrase green job, meaning it can be used by any type of recruiter for any type of role.
Valeria Orozco in New York can help us understand how this workforce is developing. She's the Director of Environmental Sustainability for the job site Indeed. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Green or climate resilient jobs is still broad and amorphous. Can you tell us how Indeed actually defines or qualifies that category of jobs?
So green jobs has a couple components. We have one component about the work itself, which is very much around protecting, preserving, or monitoring the environment, as well as using our resources more efficiently. That's one component of the work. The next component of the work is tied to decent work, right? Looking for labor practices around safety and a decent job, a decent salary around that. And finally, it's industry agnostic. So you have more traditional industries such as manufacturing and agriculture who are greening their practices and can have green jobs included in them. And then you have more emerging industries such as renewable energy and clean energy, which are much easier to define and say that's a green job.
So Valeria, are these jobs, are you finding them popular on the job site? Are people actually searching for them?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a growing interest among job seekers looking to, first of all, capitalize on some of the trends within corporations that are starting to build actual, I would say, corporate strategies. So looking to see to work within a corporation that is either building a new green product or looking at greening its own operations, as well as those that are, I would say, at core of their products, such as a solar technician or a wind technician. And those types of jobs are also very popular on Indeed.
Are more of these bachelor's degree required jobs, or more of them requiring certificates or other on-the-job training?
Yeah, so the types of jobs range, right? So you have those, for example, that we're seeing are environmental managers who tend to have maybe a more specialized requirement, such as a bachelor's degree. But then there are also those such as an arborist or those that are in the forestry trade that are looking to still preserve a piece of land while harvesting forests. And that can be something that requires a certification or maybe a certain number of hours of on-the-job training to be able to kind of be a forester or an arborist in a certain part of land or somewhere where they're trying to harvest that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Valeria. That was Valeria Orozco from Indeed. Stay up to date with all of JFF's work across the country and send us your thoughts and questions on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
In part one, I went to meet a team making robots to help fight wildfires. In this show, I want to take you back to the Bay Area, this time to learn about a company hoping to revolutionize the way California supplies its electricity grid.
Yeah, now is really the best time ever to commercialize wave power. About half of the US population lives within 50 miles of the coastline, and wave power can provide up to 30 to 40% of total US clean energy demand.
When coal and oil are burned, they release carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, which in turn trap heat in our atmosphere. They pollute the air, water, and land. Burning non-renewable fossil fuels also upsets the Earth's balance of carbon, making them the primary contributors to global warming and climate change. Wave energy uses the motion of the waves, and importantly, it's a renewable way to power the world. I've come to meet the man who wants to provide an accessible replacement to the use of fossil fuels.
Yeah, hi, Marcus Seaman, co-founder CEO of CalWave Power Technologies, and we're in the Port of Oakland, where CalWave's headquarters is located. CalWave harnesses the power from ocean waves. It's the largest unused renewable resource and has great benefits. We can produce power at night and winter times. And so with that, we can really facilitate the transition to 100% renewables in the near future.
Waves form as wind blows over the surface of open water in oceans and lakes. And ocean waves contain tremendous energy.
And that comes with a lot of jobs. It's really building a complete new industry. There's an enormous opportunity for the US to really become the leading exporter of wave technology globally.
Marcus and his team believe that with renewable energy comes endless possibilities for jobs.
You can really see us no different than an offshore wind turbine that comes with all the jobs related, from fabrication of the steel structures, assembly of the generators, but then also sales, maintenance jobs. We need vessel operators that can install the devices, that can maintain them throughout the years, and then all the other expertise around environmental permitting, also legal aspects, so really the full value chain that is currently also involved in offshore wind.
So hi, my name is Nigel Kojimoto. I'm the VP of Engineering at CalWave Power Technologies. I do a lot of work, specific on the engineering, whether that's design of, specific components that we're working on, but also kind of overseeing kind of the integration and a lot of other people's work coming together into our final device. We're looking for people who have maybe a little bit of industry experience, who are comfortable making technical drawings.
The ocean waves are converted to electricity through wave energy converters, or WEC devices. They extract energy from the waves via a multitude of different motion patterns and then convert it into usable energy. That energy is then applied to the electricity grid. So you live in a state where your governor has committed to climate resiliency. I'm curious what you would ask policymakers today.
Yeah, certainly it's an enormous opportunity for the state of California and other local regions to establish a local supply chain and a local industry. Overall, the blue economy is getting a lot of focus that includes logistics, shipping, but also things like offshore wind and ocean energy. As of now, we've not really received a lot of funding from the state of California. Majority of our funding came federally from the Department of Energy. And so we know offshore wind is early in California, and the California Energy Commission and others are trying to facilitate and widen their scope. But as of now, and we've been trying really hard for many years now, we've not received any direct support. We're seeing a lot of funding going towards wind and solar, which are already mature technologies, and often the technologies are being imported and not produced locally. And so my worry is that we're actually missing out on an opportunity here to really establish a globally leading industry.
JFF believes that climate-resilient jobs have the ability to result in a more equitable workplace, which is why climate impact investor Taj Eldridge now leads JFF Lab's climate innovation work. More about that work shortly, but first, there's a personal reason that Taj is committed to ensuring climate resiliency.
Hello, my name is Taj Eldridge, and I serve as a director for climate innovations at Jobs for the Future. I live in Los Angeles. You have situations where people live in areas where they have tainted water or water that comes from pollution that has high levels of lead in it in other areas, and that's what caused the disease I have called FSGS.
That's a kidney disease that was partially caused by the environment that we grew up in Dallas, Texas, and also to genetic factors that cause the disease. And unfortunately for a disease like this, one of the few ways or only ways that you can survive is through this machine that cleans your blood artificially because your kidneys no longer work, or a transplant, either from a deceased individual or a live donor. I think that it's very important for people to see that this is a disease that you won't see the people who leave here look like your normal people. There's nothing to indicate that they've been in this treatment for 3 to 4 hours. And I go for 3-4 hours a day, 3 days a week in order to clean my blood. And so this is a day in the life of a kidney dialysis patient with a disease caused by environmental and climate.
That's really a part of what I do to really ensure that we don't have other people who face the things that I face. I think the issue of it is, though, that some people don't realize that climate is an impactful thing in their health. The reason I give that example is that I have 2 other cousins who live in the same area as me who have since passed away of kidney failure. And at the time, they had no idea the connections to the environment. I think there are people who have these diseases right now in this country who have no idea that climate is a part of that. I think for me, when you see the American Medical Association designate climate change as a medical factor, it really shows that we have to look at these diseases and these illnesses that impact us and see the relationship between the climate and the environment. I love to go to places like Leimert Park that has a lot of culture and rich history of the city. And what I love about this is that they're really kind of introducing electric bikes to the community as an alternative means of transportation. Now they can have this bike to a place where they can have, and bike for longer too, because it's more electric and it's not providing any emissions itself. And so I think that's a really interesting thing to introduce to a lot of communities. Typically when we see these solutions like scooters that we saw, they typically come into affluent neighborhoods and neighborhoods in California near the beach on the west side. But I think what I love about this company here at Leimert Park is that they're introducing these technologies, they're introducing these things that reduce a lot of emissions right in the community. Do I think that this change will happen overnight? No. I think this is a long-standing fight that we will have. But when we look at things like the recent bill that just passed with the federal government that has the largest amount of money funding for climate issues, I think that's evident why the work that we're doing is important. And part of the focus that I do is a program called CREST, Climate Resilient Employees for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Their program was happily funded by the Aries Charitable Foundation, and what they're doing for that is twofold. The idea is to bring awareness to climate resilient jobs in the future and to reach at least 100,000 people in this country around those jobs. Secondly, what we want to do is create the processes in place to upskill, reskill, and train 25,000 people for 25,000 jobs in climate. And so a lot of the work that I do and the team that's with me that we do is focus on 3 areas: research, innovation, and scaling. And number 3, really working with local stakeholders, whether those are universities, community colleges, cities, counties, to ensure that the training is needed for the population to have these jobs in the future.
And Taj Eldridge is with us now from Los Angeles. And we're also joined by Abe Baca, Senior Manager of the Impact Fund at Los Angeles Climate Incubator. And Taj, again, thank you for sharing your story. I think, you represent so many people that have been impacted by climate that no one would ever know. I wonder if you can just share why you wanted to share the story now. Why is it so important, and what do you want people to take away from it?
If you're transparent about these things and transparent about the impacts of climate change, more people would care about them. More people would encourage their politicians to do more about it as well. And more people will make decisions that really help on a sustainable standpoint.
And Abe, you all are doing some really exciting work at Lacey. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what it is, what you're doing, what gets you excited, what brings you to work every day.
What got me excited about joining Lacey in July, when I started, was that Lacey looks at climate change holistically. So it's both from the policy and engaging local governments, engaging the communities, and making sure that the people whose solutions we are going to be bringing to those communities are also heard. And then third is working with founders who are developing these new solutions and technologies in order to solve climate change.
So you identify solutions, you invest in solutions. Can you share something that you're really excited about?
One company that I'm really excited about, and Tosh knows the founder as well very well, is Charger Help, and Camille Terry and Yvette Ellis. So it is a company that is working on developing workforce trainers to be electric vehicle station technicians. So they train these technicians in order to help upkeep and maintain electric vehicle charging stations. And more importantly, they're very focused on workforce development. So a recent program in collaboration with Lacey has been a new class of training, a full class of women electric vehicle charging station technicians.
And I would say JFF is also an investor in Charger Help. So
Absolutely.
Kudos for all of us.
So we've talked today about some big challenges, but some solutions that are coming out of this. I wonder if the two of you are optimistic for the future, or if you're pessimistic. Like, how are you feeling as we look towards the future of solving this issue?
Well, as an economist, I have to say that pessimism is in our blood. However, I'm very optimistic. I'm optimistic because I see people like Abe who are coming after the work I'm doing, and my expectation is for him to run where I walked. And I think I see him doing the same thing and mentoring other folks after him. And I think because of that, we're going to see a change.
It's starting to become where the best thing to do is like the right thing or the most sustainable thing. And I think that's where we need to go as a society, is making it simple that, you know, the simplest solution or the simplest choice is also the most sustainable one. And I think that's what we're working towards.
The best thing to do is the right thing to do. Thank you both for joining us. Stay up to date with all of JFF's work across the country, and send us your thoughts and questions on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Taj explained the work JFF is doing with the Aries Foundation to train and place at least 25,000 people in clean energy jobs.
Aries, as we'll now hear from their CEO, Michael Arrighetti, has a broader goal in their initiative to increase a climate-resilient workforce. Aries intends to disrupt the inequalities that create occupational segregation in the green economy.
Mike Arrighetti. I am the CEO of Aries Management and also the chairman of the board of the Aries Charitable Foundation. Aries is a global alternative asset manager, and we manage various types of assets on behalf of institutional clients and retail clients. So we stood up the Aries Charitable Foundation. Because of the business that we're in, of investing in private markets, we've chosen to focus on three core areas: career preparation and job reskilling, entrepreneurship and innovation around small companies, as well as financial literacy and personal finance. CREST is Climate Resilient Employees for a Sustainable Tomorrow. CREST is a $25 million grant-funded pledge. The goal is to focus on our job reskilling and training. And our goal there is to create 25,000 climate resilient jobs. Interestingly, Aries is in the climate infrastructure business, so we see how rapidly the transition is taking place, but most philanthropies and most institutional investors are focused on accelerating the energy transition, not really focusing on the unintended consequences of hastening that transition. And what we're seeing in the field as one of the leading investors in climate infrastructure is that because of the energy transition, many communities, many employees are getting left behind. And so the ultimate goal of this program in partnership with JFF is to reskill people from old economy jobs, old energy economy jobs, to a green future. which we think will be more sustainable and frankly higher paying jobs over time. Our goal through that partnership, also through the dissemination of information and various studies, is to make sure that we touch business leaders, educators, policymakers to really understand how the energy transition affects the job landscape in America. In addition to our partnership with Jobs for the Future here in the US, we are partnering with the World Resource Institute, WRI, in India. We believe to our core that if we're going to be a global investor, that we need to be investing in all of the communities that we serve. One of the issues with the energy transition and the shift to green jobs, many of these jobs don't even exist yet. We don't know exactly what will be required, so the scope first has to say what is required to be successful in this new economy post-transition, and make sure that we're identifying the workers that need to be reskilled and retrained in order to meet that need. We want to see a more inclusive economy, and we want to see a lower carbon economy. CREST really sits at the intersection of those two core themes and ideas, in the sense that in order to transition, we want to see that transition be just, which means that we don't want people to get left behind. We want people to have access and opportunity that gets created by the transition to a lower carbon economy. So by marrying those two ideals that really underpin our values and our approach to our work, CREST is really resonating with us. If you look at the history of American industry, I don't think that we've done a great job in similar transitions, and we've seen regions that have lost out in shared prosperity when we've transitioned big swaths of the economy, and I just think that we need to be more intentional so that we don't make those mistakes again.
So as Michael and really several of our other guests have said, there's enormous potential in the labor market to develop climate-resilient workforce that's critically needed to improve and protect the future of humanity.
Stay up to date with all of JFF's work across the country and send us your thoughts and questions on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Until the next Horizons on the Record, goodbye.
Goodbye.